I, on behalf of Shah Imran Institute of Islamic Studies, extend warm welcome to the dignitaries on the dais and the distinguished participants, both online and offline, the students, the teachers, the faculty members, for responding positively to our request to be with us in the inaugural function of the Studio National Seminar and for having graced the occasion this year of its presence. Conducting of seminars on the themes of contemporary significance and social relevance is a permanent feature of the academic activity of the Shah Imran Institute of Islamic Studies. Today's Studio National Seminar, Environmental Ethics, a Religious Perspective, has been conceived for two reasons. Number one, to address to the challenge of environmental crisis at global level, and number two, to promote environmental ethics from a religious perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, study of environmental protection and environmental ethics has been an advanced discourse of the contemporary academic activity. Prominent institutions have been established around the globe to study environmental challenges and suggest remedial measures to curb this menace. According to an estimate, almost 50 million websites are connected to the issue of environmental degradation, and 45 million locations refer to the global warming itself. Appreciating and evaluating all discussions and studies on environmental ethics, the roots and origins undoubtedly exist in early Islamic sources. Contemporary world, despite its technological advancements, is facing the challenge of environmental degradation on a massive scale, reducing its ecological sustainability for future generations. Religions around the world play a significant role in defining moral norms which can subsequently pave way for environmental conservation. Islam, one of the world's leading religions, places vital importance on environmental ethics. Islamic perspective on environmental ethics rests on the belief that Allah is the creator and the sustainer of the universe, which has been created with perfect wisdom, having maintained balance while in its creation. Ma tara fi khalqi ar-Rahman min tafawut, as Quran says. You will never find any imbalance in the creation that has been made by God Almighty Allah. Allah made everything subservient to mankind on earth, as Quran says, Alam tar, Allah sakhara lakum ma fil ard. That God has made subservient whatever has been given to mankind on the surface of earth. And mankind is directed to spread, not to spread mischief or disorder on the earth after it has been set in order. وَلَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ بَعْدَ إِصْلَاحِهَا. Don't spread mischief or misorder after the earth has been placed in an order that has been, otherwise more conducive to the settlement of mankind and rest of the, settlements on the earth. Allama Rabi Asfahani, in his renowned work, Al-Mufradat, defines mischief and disorder as perversion. Holy Quran in unequivocal terms refers to this perversion or mischief as acts of human. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. The mischief and the disorder that appeared on the cosmos is because of the misdeeds of human beings. That's why prominent scholars of medieval age recognize the universe as the creation of Allah. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب. There in the creation of days, heavens and the earth, alteration of night and day, there are signs of Allah's power for men of understanding. As such, these scientific investigations, which include studies on environmental issues as well, did not remain mere investigation, but became a separate duty for the Muslim scholars who continued with their wonderful pieces, wonderful compilations on these subjects. Consequently, the vision and contribution of such scholars became a hallmark of medieval Islamic heritage. The renowned contemporary scholar Sayyid Hussain Nasr has rightly pointed out that he has advocated of sacredness of environment and has maintained that man and cosmos are in a state of unity, harmony, and are complementary to each other. To him, planting trees, treating animals gently, avoiding water pollution are as good deeds as feeding the poor and attending the sick.
Now, if you look at around us, we are all aware of the environmental issues that we face. And there are legal frameworks to deal with these issues, not to speak of the ethics that Professor Khaki was talking about, which have been emphasized in our religion, of course in all the religions. But what is it that despite all this, there are legal frameworks, there are religious directions, but we hardly care about the environment. If there is anything that suffers, these days it is the environment. So we may be talking about this, but if you see it on the ground, look at every aspect of the environment. Water bodies, water pollution, air pollution, the solid waste, mismanagement. Of course, every aspect of the environment. I think these resources or these assets are in shambles. Despite that, we have all the legal frameworks. If you see at the national level, or if you look at, but the fact is, in our subconscious and conscious, it is not very much integrated. I have seen maybe the Khaki Sahib is speaking about it in light of religion, because today we are talking about it. But how many of our religious leaders, how many of our imams are giving Friday sermons on these issues? I have hardly heard about any imam talking to us on Friday about what is our obligation, what are our responsibilities. And if you look at the legal frameworks also, we are very much emphasizing on the rights, but when it comes to our responsibilities and duties, so we are lacking on it. But today, as I was seeing in the program also, and Professor Khaki Sahib also alluded to it, there are certain environmental aspects which are global in nature, which have transboundary signatures. There are many of them, and the most important is the climate change. So there are many environmental issues or disasters. You will see sometimes floods, you will see in Kashmir, and the neighboring country has no control on it, has no information about it, and they will also be impacted. But as far as our air pollution, it will come, if you look at Kashmir, the rain, the snow that you get is not from within the Kashmir, So it originates from Atlantic Ocean, comes over the European Union, West Asia, and then it brings us back, these air masses bring us the rains here, which everybody knows we call western disturbances is coming. So the western disturbance originates in the Atlantic Ocean, comes over the Europe, gets enriched with moisture, Caspian Sea, Black Sea, so then it brings rains and this. So the climate system is global in signature. So whatever those pollutants or those greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, are generated in Europe will reach here because the climate system is global in signature. So many of us sometimes say that why should there be a climate change in Kashmir? Because we don't have industries in Kashmir. So, but it is because we have climate change impact here, because the climate system is global in nature. The greenhouse gases that generate in any part of the world will come here. And unfortunately, those countries will generate the greenhouse gases. If you look at the greenhouse gas emissions, if you look at the carbon dioxide emissions since the mid of last century, 1950s, up to now, the carbon dioxide only has increased tenfold. Our population has increased globally only threefold since 1950. So you can imagine the per capita emissions globally, how they have increased in 1950. But you see in Kashmir, 1950 up to now, I think there is hardly any increase in the industries, so hardly any increase or emissions as greenhouse gas emissions per capita in Kashmir. But I tell you, we are the people living on the mountains are the worst sufferers of the climate change impact. They contribute very little of it, but they suffer the most. So in order to mitigate the impacts of this climate change, today's topic is very, so ethics come into effect. But if you are following the climate change, because it's a global problem, so, it is very unfortunate if somebody in this audience still thinks whether climate change is a reality or a myth. So that was sealed in Kyoto, which is known by the Kyoto Protocol in 1997. 1997, so most of the world accepted that climate change is real. It is almost now 35 years. And then they started working towards the mitigation of the climate change. Now recently you have heard about the Glasgow, before that the Paris Agreement. Now the negotiations since 1997 up to now, are about what is your obligation. Who is responsible for the climate change and how much and what needs to be done by you. If you are contributing, as I saw today, because of the advancement in the field of science and technology, we know exactly which country is contributing how much to the climate change. Now these negotiations that you are seeing, so this is about fixing the responsibilities and this realization that how much you are responsible for the climate change and what you need to do in order to mitigate the climate change. And if you see those negotiations, if you follow, and if you see the protocols or if you see the binding agreements now on the countries are based on justified ethics. Now, we heard sometimes back polluter pays principle. If you are polluting water body and industry is polluting your water body, you have to pay for it. But there was a lot of difficulty at the international level to make this principle acceptable as far as climate change is concerned. Now if you look at if you list all the countries in the world and look at their contributions as far as climate change is concerned, the first three, not countries, one of them is European Union, the America at the top, European Union at number 2 position and China at number 3rd, contribute almost 60% to the climate change. And if you look at the bottom 100 countries, they contribute 3% to the climate change. But they are more vulnerable than those three countries. And because, you see, it's a very difficult issue, mitigating the climate change. Now if you look at overall, India is not very down. India is at 4th number only. If you see that, India's contribution, because of number, not per capita. India is still among one of the, lower income, countries. But the reason that India is contributing significantly to the climate change is because of the number. 1.3 billion people. Even if the per capita emission is very low of these, but the number, that's what is, America says, we are contributing almost as much as, you are contributing. The India says that your contribution per capita is very high. I can't deprive my people from the development, from the, procedures of development. So this negotiation is going on. But overall, if you look at this, recently we talked about this related to the climate ethics, that's environmental ethics, that's the climate justice. So the Indian Prime Minister in the Paris Agreement during that talked about the climate justice. So you are contributing significantly to the climate change, so you need to contribute significantly in terms of the mitigation also.
So far as the topic selected for discussion, that is environmental ethics, and that too from the religious perspective. Well, you may talk of any religion, and even you may talk of atheists. There is a strong belief that there is a universe, and this universe has been created by someone. And to that very someone, we call him with different names. I as Almighty Allah, Christians as God, Hindus as Bhagwan, whatever you may call it. Now if you close your eyes just for 5 seconds and ask yourself what this universe is, perhaps you will be confused that everything is well scheduled. Your sunset, your sunrise, your sunset, your different seasons of the year. And then, in fact, as every religion, especially our Islam says, you look at any dimension of universe, you will find a God here. In case I don't switch off my bulb at the night, it will remain on. But you have not to do it at the dusk when the light is coming to earth. And you just as scientists have now revealed, and our 2 experts, Professor Talal Sahab and Professor Shakil Sahab, they know it better than anybody else, how this earth revolves, and then what are its implications on all the creatures. As it has been rightly said by Khaki Sahab and even by Shakil Sahab, it is a well-balanced given to us by Almighty Allah. But we as human beings, to whom the God has given a very, very upper position among the creatures, of late is guided by greed rather than by need. And when we are guided by greed, we have gone for the exploitation of natural resources. And thereby, when you exceed your limits to exploit natural resources, since Almighty Allah has set the calendar of the universe, it reacts. Maybe some of you who are young and some of, those who have crossed the 50, they might have seen different reactions of the nature, which of course we have found in 2014, the flood in Kashmir. Of late, you have seen a sinkhole in the south. Professor Amshant Sahab can explain it in a better way. And now the water went into that very sinkhole, and now, day before yesterday, it emerged somewhere in Achibal. And crisis has been created in the Achibal area when the water came out in a very high speed and in a very high value. This is the reaction of nature so far as our exploitation of natural resources with the greed is concerned. Since the Institute has identified the topic, and that you have to examine from the religious perspective. You take the example of Islam. We have been ordinated, we have been commanded, walk on earth, and while walking you must not have this element of arrogance, यानी थपथपा के अपना पैर नहीं दबाना है जमीन पर. Walk gently. If you analyze as a scholar, it gives you a lot of meaning. Well, the exponential said, our Quran, our Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told you that what is the importance of water. I think 4 or 5 years back, we had a lecture over here on wudu. And it was explained by the expert who had come from UK that you have to keep the water pure and you have to use it judiciously. He gave the example of Prophet, and he had brought one a type of mud, a nari small, and he said only this much amount of water must be used while you are going for wudu. In other words, we have not to keep it only pure, we have to conserve it.
The theme of the conference is the relationship between the environment and religion, and how the two must combine, I would imagine, to produce an ethical sort of relationship in the field of our nature. We know precisely that it is these two themes on which the world today is locked into what is no less than a struggle for the very survival of this planet and its inhabitants. How? The environment and religion, two subjects about which we could talk for much longer time, are both in the grip of two ideologies of our age. These are the ideology of greed, which allows us to exploit nature without any conscience, and that the other ideology which legitimates the use of power indiscriminately towards those who don't have power, namely the commodification of our natural resources and the indiscriminate use of power on the other. They hurtle us towards what is something that's very important to bear in mind. I think that hate of other religions, other politics, other economies, even simply other humans, has come to dominate our societies. And I think we need to take a deep breath and think about what that implies. And secondly, environmental degradation has brought us to the brink of what can be nothing less than climate disaster, which is literally the end of the world. We will not tackle or preach on the political-religious hate because it's not the topic of this seminar, and two, because no religion, no politics is exempt from having promoted hate in this our day. So, instead, let us actually focus on the need for an ethics or morality about and towards the environment. Our social relationships are tense, our natural landscapes are disfigured, and our mindscapes are or should be none. All this because in our age we have so thoroughly destroyed nature that we are actually, not virtually means almost, but we are actually contemplating the possible end of planet Earth and our human race, not in some distant future, but possibly within the next 20 or 25 years. This is, we have scientists sitting over here, and I think that this is not an exaggeration. Let us hope
that the next 2 days will not only explore the causes and consequences of the disaster that faces us on planet Earth, but also propose actions, no matter how small, how grand, towards mitigating this onslaught and this disaster. What is the role of religion in this responsibility towards, and I quote on the title, environmental ethics from a religious perspective? We begin with an empirical audit of our social, ecological, and economic spheres of activity. It would be no exaggeration, as I've already said, to say that our social relationships disturbed, unsettled. Our physical landscape disfigured, marked, and our mental one is troubled by schizophrenia and trauma. Again, social and mental relationships not being, conditions not being a topic, we will move on to the topic of the physical landscape. Physical landscape is basically pristine nature. It has always had a sacred role. Wherever human beings have contemplated, thus the sky in shamanic thinking, for example, designated the Most High. Not only that, or the abode of the Most High. Not only that, in Tengri, in Mongolian, the word Tengri connotates their word for the Almighty. And Tian, in Mandarin, is again the Most High. You must have heard of the Tianjin Mountain, certainly, which is the high abode of the High God. So I think that it has played a role, nature has played a role vis-a-vis the sky. When primitive humans, ancient humans, looked up at the sky, they contemplated it. They saw it as something greater than themselves. Melchior Eliade tells us that they saw the sky as a symbol of the infinite, the transcendent. And I quote, "Contemplating the vault of heaven produces a religious experience in the primitive mind. Such contemplation is the same as revelation." Close quote. As for earth, it was valued by ancients as Mother Earth. And the Vedic text addresses a dead man thus. It says, I again repeat, "Crawl to your mother, Earth. May she save you from the void." Close quote. These are instances of a period before organized religion, when humans dwelt in nature. The latter substituted books with babbling brooks, just to quote Shakespeare, and forests of trees, wherein every person was a priest.
People discussed about various aspects of environment. So, for example, the importance of water, the importance of glaciers, the trees, okay, and all these things are contributing to the environment. But if you see, if you leave the Mother Earth on its own, how much carbon dioxide is being produced by nature? Nature किस तरह वो गाड़ी तो नहीं चलाता है nature, but you have lots of volcanoes, for example, on the surface of the earth and also in the ocean. There's lots of CO2 is produced, much more than what we do by industries and by cars and by everything. But the amount of carbon dioxide which is produced by the nature is again consumed by the nature. How it is done? By forming the mountains, for example. The new rocks will come and it will absorb the carbon dioxide from the environment and from the atmosphere. And at the same time there are other ways. So the only problem is, if we understand that if you leave or make a balance with the Mother Earth, you will not disturb the system. But unfortunately, because of our own greed and also for development. For example, we have cut lots of trees. Trees are other thing which is very, very important. जितना आप गाड़ियाँ चलाएंगे, अगर हम रोज उतने ही दरख्त भी लगाते रहें तो शायद ये प्रॉब्लम कम हो. लेकिन हम गाड़ियाँ और ट्रक यूज करते हैं, ट्रक ट्रीज को काट के लेकर के जाने के लिए. ओके, तो आप कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं, बट जो ट्रीज था उसे भी आप गायब कर रहे हैं. उसके वजह से तो दूसरी रिलेटेड प्रॉब्लम तो आती है. आपने ट्रीज काट दिए, सारे जंगलात कम हो गए, तो वहां पर फिर सॉइल इरोजन शुरू होता है. सॉइल इरोजन जो है वो आगे के आपके लेक और वाटर बॉडीज, मतलब डल लेक है, दूसरी जो रिवर्स है उसमें जाता है. जब हल्की से भी बारिश होती है तब भी वो मालूम है कि आपको डर हो जाता है कि साथ फ्लड ना हो जाए. वो इसलिए हमने कुछ ये सब प्रोड्यूस किया है. पहले जब कश्मीर में या पूरे हिमालयाज में ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी, ट्रीज उतना ज्यादा नहीं कटते थे, तो बारिश भी ज्यादा होती थी लेकिन कभी फ्लड नहीं होता था. जैसा आपको 2014 में जो फ्लड हुआ शायद उसको बहुत पहले हुआ होगा, लेकिन ये सब चीजें डिस्टेंस है. तो उसमें बहुत अच्छा कंट्रीब्यूशन हम सबका है. दरख्त काटने में, चाहे हम अपने फर्नीचर बनाने के लिए यूज करें, मकानात बनाने में यूज करें, उसी तरह से बहुत सारा आप देखते हैं. जैसे आप कश्मीर में खुद ही इतनी नेचुरल ब्यूटी, इतने नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज हैं, बस अब अगर देखें तो यहाँ के लिहाज से जो ज्यादा जरूरी है कि आप जो है वो आप ट्रीज का या लकड़ी का इस्तेमाल करें. कम से कम आप देखिएगा बड़े बड़े मार्बल के स्लैब और ग्रेनाइट और सारी चीजें आ रही. कहाँ से आ रही? राजस्थान से या दूसरे जगहों से. तो एक तो आप लाने में जो ट्रांसपोर्ट में आप कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड यूज कर रहे हैं, उसके बाद आप ये भी देखिए कि आप किस जोन में है. आप हिमालय यहाँ पे साइक्लिसिटी, यहाँ पे आपको एक बराबर आता रहता है, और कब ज्यादा आएगा भी हमें पता नहीं है, पर आएगा. तो हम जिस तरह से बड़े बड़े बिल्डिंग्स और उससे बहुत हेवी स्ट्रक्चर्स बना रहे हैं, हम मार्बल्स लगा रहे हैं, घर के बाहर भी लगा रहे हैं, मतलब वो पैसे हैं किसी तरह से खर्च करना है. बट द प्रॉब्लम है कल होकर के ये अगर आपको एक यदि बड़ा आता है तो ये सारे जो है वो आपके लिए वो आपके कब्रिस्तान बन जाएगा. आप अगर यहाँ की पुरानी बिल्डिंग्स देखें, आप पुरानी हिस्ट्री को देखें कश्मीर का या कहीं भी पूरे हिमालयाज में, तो लोग जो थे उसमें मिनिमम यूज करते थे हेवी मटेरियल. वो ज्यादा लकड़ियों के चीजें बनती थी, उसमें वो बीच में डालते थे ताकि अगर वो अर्थक्वेक भी आएगा तो वो कुछ ईंट आपके ऊपर गिरेगी, आप मर नहीं जाइएगा. ओके, तो ये सब चीजें एनवायरमेंट से रिलेटेड है. और जैसा कि अभी जाहिर आप सब इस्लामिक स्टडीज के स्कॉलर हैं, खुद जो हमारे प्रोफेट साहब थे वो खुद मिनिमम हर चीज का मिनिमम जितना जरूरत है उतना यूज कीजिए. आप इनडिस्क्रिमिनेटली सारी रिसोर्सेज को मत यूज कीजिए, बिकॉज आने वाली जनरेशन के लिए कुछ होना चाहिए. ओके, तो मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है कि इस तरह की चीजें डिस्कस होंगी. और जाहिर है मैं ज्यादा इसमें साइंटिफिक चीजों में नहीं जाना चाहूंगा. डॉक्टर साहब ने ऑलरेडी टच किया है कि भाई ग्लेशियर्स है तो उसकी क्या इंपॉर्टेंस है, और अगर ये ग्लेशियर्स खत्म हो जाता है या जल्दी खत्म होता है उसका क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ेगा लोगों पे. बगैर पानी के लोग परेशान हो जाएंगे, मर जाएंगे. ओके, तो हमें कितना उसे कंजर्व करना है, कैसे करना है, उसके बारे में सोचना चाहिए. उसी में आपको इस्लामिक स्टडीज के साथ जो हम लोगों को इस्लाम ने सिखाया है, जाहिर दूसरे रिलीजन में भी सिखाया गया है, जिसका आई होप जैसा हमारे सभी भाई साहब ने भी इशारा किया, फिर अभी हमारे मंजूर भाई बोल रहे थे, तो अच्छी चीजें हैं कि सबको मिला करके करें. बट एट द सेम टाइम
जो साइंस वाले लोग हैं उनको भी सोशल साइंस की तरफ देखना चाहिए। सोशल साइंस के जैसे सेमिनार होगा, इसमें अच्छा खासा कंट्रीब्यूशन होना चाहिए। यूनिवर्सिटी का यही मतलब है कि आपका एक यूनिवर्सल अप्रोच होना चाहिए कि आप सारे सब्जेक्ट के लोग आए, एक चीज को डिस्कस करें, उसका जो एक निकल के जो एक चीज आएगी, मैं समझता हूँ कि वो बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट होगी लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए।